This is Nixon. Oh, here he goes! My goodness!
They may not like the cold,
He's taking it the distance. And Jones going all the way. Touchdown!
but they represent the green and gold.
Love to Watson. Going deep, has a man. It's caught. Watson is in. Touchdown, Green Bay.
Welcome to the West Coast Cheeseheads podcast.
Welcome, Packer family, to another episode of the West Coast Cheeseheads podcast. As you know, I'm your host, Mateo, alongside with my co-host, Joe, and thank you for joining. So, in this episode, we are following what was, frankly, an embarrassing loss to the Detroit Lions in a Thursday night football primetime game, and it was just a real hard game to watch. And so this is going to be a tough episode to kind of get through, but we'd like to be able to go over how we're going to move forward from this loss. If you haven't yet, please like and subscribe on our YouTube channel. Also, you can find us on Facebook at West Coast Cheeseheads Podcast, Instagram at WC Cheeseheads Podcast, or Twitter and TikTok at WC Cheeseheads. And we are here to provide you with all information, anything and everything Packer related. We may not like the cold, but certainly still rep the green and gold. So, Joe, how you feeling?
Mateo, that last game against the Lions was a very tough game to watch, like you had mentioned. You know, going into that game, I was very hopeful of this Packer team. I was very confident in this Packer team, and my perception of them had actually took an uptick up. And the Detroit Lions completely shattered those expectations of the Packers for me, and has really knocked me back down a little bit. So very tough game to watch. Hoping for a better rest of the season from this Packers team, especially the offensive line, but we'll get into that here in a bit. But outside of that, man, I'm doing good. Just really hoping this Packers team could pick it up.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, I mean, by looking at this score, it doesn't even show the justification on how bad this game really was. I mean, final score 34-20, but going into the half, we were down 27-3. And yeah, it was just really tough to watch. But yeah, let's go ahead. I want to dig into a couple things. And the first topic that I want to bring up was a big key player that was missing in this game. And he's frankly missed most of the season. David Bakhtiari. Yeah, so I mean, he's only played one game this season, and it was our week 1 against the Chicago Bears that he ended up playing. And frankly, he's just been down, you know, just with injury, and it seems like it's this knee injury, now officially placed on injured reserve and out for the season. So I really just want to touch subject on this. I mean, because Bakhtiari has been out for 4 seasons straight. Going back to 2020, I believe he had a chest injury there, and then the knee started to pick into play. And this injury that he's dealing with, I understand how great of a player he actually is, but if we don't have him out there, then how great is he really to us, you know? And it pains me to say that, because Bakhtiari is a fantastic player, and he's a high-calibered player to have on our squad. But if he's just not healthy enough to play anymore, I think it's about time that we start looking for somebody that can actually have an effect on our offensive line, because our offensive line was really down this game. I mean, it's probably one of the key things that I have to say about this game against the Lions. Our offensive line was just not providing protection or any opportunities on the run.
Yeah, David Bakhtiari has been a very big disappointment. Again, injuries suck. Everyone deals with injuries in the NFL. This knee injury, this nagging knee injury that he's had, has really been a pain in his side. You know, going back to 2020, like you said, he had a chest injury that had made him miss 4 games. In 2021, he only played 1 game, missing 15 because of the knee. 2022, missed 6 games because of the knee. And now he's out for the rest of the season, playing only 1 game. You know, he's 31 years old. With the knee injury, being an offensive lineman, you really have to question how much longer he's going to be in this league. I hate to say it like you just said, because he's such a pivotal person on this offensive line and in this Packer locker room. But you know that phrase goes like, "What have you done for me lately?" And he really hasn't done much for the Packers lately, except for ride that pine and ride that injured reserve list. But it pains me to say that because I like the guy, but we definitely need to start looking at other options. We saw what we could put out there this last game against the Lions, and Packer fans, you saw it as much as we did. The offensive line just got manhandled by the Lions' defensive line. Hutchinson ran all over us. The pressure on Jordan Love seemed like it was every single snap. It was bad. It was bad, and there's nothing else to say besides it was bad. Something's got to change with this offensive line. A rookie needs to step up. We were missing Elgin Jenkins as well. Not having Elgin Jenkins out there was a huge hole in this offensive line. So me and Mateo were actually texting while this game was going on, and after like the first few drives that the Lions had, I remember texting you, Mateo, and saying like, this offensive line is going to be an issue this game. And sure enough it looked like Jordan Love was under pressure every single second of this game while this offense was out there on the field.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the stats right now. I mean, Jordan Love was sacked 5 times in this game. I believe 3 of those sacks was in the first half alone. And so looking at it, 5 sacks for a loss of 43 yards. I mean, that's just insane. And then going into the rushing, so Aaron Jones carried the ball 5 times. A.J. Dillon 5 times. Okay, even Jordan Love carried it twice, but it was for negative yardage. Altogether, our rushing game was a total of 27 yards. Compared to the Lions, I mean, David Montgomery was just a monster in this game, but the Lions had 211 rushing yards in this game. I mean, something's got to give. We need to create these opportunities for both the pass and both the rush. And if our offensive line can't provide the protection or the holes to be able to create these opportunities, we're going to need to try to figure it out how we can move forward and create these opportunities.
Yeah, if the Packers are serious about winning this season in Jordan Love's first season, instead of making this a development year for this young team, if they're really serious about winning, we might have to start looking outside of the organization and bring somebody in. I don't know who's out there on the free agent, out there as a free agent. I don't know if there's a trade that we can make, but we might need to bring somebody else in to fill those holes, because what we have out there, we saw it against these Lions. It's not working. And now we have David Bakhtiari out for the entire season. We might need to look outside this organization to fill that spot.
Correct. Okay, now the next topic that I want to bring up, with a score of 34-20 and going into the half down 27-3. Joe, I want your opinion on this, okay? Who do you think's to blame more for this game? Would it be our offense or would it be our defense?
Well, we just went over it. It's definitely our offense, and to be particular, it's our offensive line. Jordan Love couldn't do anything because he was under pressure this whole time. Our rush game couldn't do anything because our offensive line wasn't opening up holes. Detroit's defensive line and their rushers were on Jordan Love within seconds, not giving our receivers any time to even run their routes. It didn't change until the second half, when Matt LaFleur had to go in there and basically scold this whole entire team, say to step up. You could see him going into the locker room how pissed off he was. He had an interview on the sidelines of how extremely upset he was. We changed our offense a little bit. We changed our philosophy. Went to like these quick slants and some screen passes. And it seemed to work out a little bit, but it just wasn't enough. I talked about it in the last episode, where one of my main concerns going into this game against the Lions was that the Packers were going to get up to a slow start and that we weren't going to be able to get going until the second half. And that's exactly what happened. We were flat in the first half. We were flat most of the game, but especially in that first half. And we started doing something in the second half, but it was just too little too late, and really couldn't stop these Detroit rushers. Like I said, I sound like a broken record, but Jordan Love was under pressure the entire game.
Yeah, and I'm looking at this right now. I mean, to start this game off, everything actually looked really good when it came to our defense. I mean, there were 3 total plays where we stopped them. First down, second down, and then Rudy Ford comes up with the interception to create some short yardage. We should have put more on the board than a field goal after 4 plays. Okay, but that's what it ended up with. We ended up with 3 points on the board, so Packers are up 0-3 at this point. But then I'm looking at the rest of this. Next drive for the Lions, touchdown. Okay, Green Bay gets the ball, 3 plays and punt. Next play for the Lions, touchdown. Packers get it, 3 plays and punt. Field goal for the Lions, 1 play interception. I mean, you look at all of this, and our offense was not creating anything or any momentum to be able to create opportunities. And that's my big word of the day. We need to create opportunity. And when you're going 3 plays and out, it's more time for the defense to be out on the field. And so you're tiring out the defense. And I think I looked at the stats as well as for time of possession this game. Packers only had about 22 minutes for the total of this game, whereas the Lions had 37 minutes total. That's unacceptable. We need to figure this out and see how we're going to go moving forward.
Yeah, we were texting during this game, and when the Packers intercepted the ball on the Detroit Lions' first drive, and it turned out to just be a field goal, I remember texting you, Mateo, and being like, that had to be a touchdown. We had to be able to capitalize on that opportunity. What happens is we got the interception, momentum swung in our favor, and when the Lions shut us down and held us to a field goal, momentum swung right back to their side. And when it swung back to their side, they capitalized. They drove down the field, scored a touchdown, wide open pass to Amon-Ra St. Brown. It's hard to even talk about this game because it was so bad it's just like us reliving it. But something's got to change this offensive line again, and we need to get our rush game going. There's got to be a change, and it can't be us not getting off to a good start every single game. I hate this notion that we're a second half team, because by that time in this game, we were already down 24 points. We're already down 24 points, and now you're putting that much pressure on Jordan Love, putting that much pressure on the defense to make stops down the stretch. Something's got to change this offensive line, because it's definitely our Achilles heel.
Right. Okay, well, now moving forward from this game, okay, so next week, week 5, we've got a game on the road in Las Vegas. So we'll be playing against the Raiders. Now, as far as looking at it, I know it's hard to say after watching this last game, but I do see us walking away with a win in that game. And then we go to Denver. We should win that one. Playing Minnesota, they're not playing great right now. I mean, everything could end up changing come time for our meetup with them. But I see a win there, and then we end up playing the Rams at home. And I could see us actually winning there as well. So there is more, once again, I'm going to throw it out there, opportunity for us to clean things up and try to increase our record. But then after those games, we've got a pretty crazy stretch. So whatever needs to be done, we need to try to figure out a way to come away with a win in these next 4 games.
Yeah, this game against the Raiders, we should get the W in that game. Raiders aren't a good team at all. And then we have the bye week, and hopefully that bye week helps a lot of our guys get healthy, fully healthy. Christian Watson came back this past week, really didn't have very many targets. Aaron Jones came back this week, didn't really get going because of our offensive line. Guys like Jair Alexander missed this game. Elgin Jenkins, I mentioned him earlier. Luke Musgrave came out of this last game with under concussion protocol. Like, we have some injuries that are gonna hurt us down the stretch if they can't get healthy. So hopefully that week 6 bye after the Raiders will help some of these guys get healthy. After that bye week, like you said, Broncos, Minnesota, LA Rams, we should get the W's there. So we're looking at potentially 4 straight wins. After that, we get the Steelers, Chargers, Lions, Chiefs, and Giants, and we'll be lucky. We'll be lucky if we can get 1 win out of those 5 weeks, if everything continues the way that they're going. And then if we say we go 0-5, say we go 1-4, those last games against the Buccaneers, Panthers, Minnesota Vikings, and the Chicago Bears are going to be what's going to push us into the playoffs or not. If we make it to the playoffs, or even if we compete for a playoff spot down the stretch, I'll consider this year a success, because I was really under the impression that we would have a horrendous year and finish something like 4-13 like I predicted. But if we could compete for a playoff spot down the stretch, maybe sneak in, it would suck, but if we're like the first team out, I would still consider it a successful year under Jordan Love's first year. But yeah, these next 4 games are going to be pivotal. It's really going to make or break our season, these next 4 games against the Raiders, Broncos, Vikings, and Rams.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Well, anyways, that concludes this episode. So thank you all again so much for joining. We truly appreciate it. And if you haven't yet, you could find us on our Facebook page at West Coast Cheeseheads Podcast, Instagram at WC Cheeseheads Podcast, or Twitter and TikTok at WC Cheeseheads. We'd love for you to leave your opinions and go over everything with us, including what we just went over on this episode. And come on, if you haven't yet, please hit or smash that like and subscribe button and be notified whenever new episodes are coming out. We truly appreciate it and thank each of you for joining us on the West Coast Cheeseheads Podcast. We may not like the cold, but certainly still rep the green and gold. Go Pack Go. Take care.